Let's have a conversation.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you are on. If you have not already, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you get notified of when I drop some more great content. So, this is a topic that I have covered a couple of times before in different ways, but people keep asking me about it. So, I thought that it was worth it to revisit it a little bit. And that is the topic of agoraphobia, which is not talked about a lot. And in my opinion, not talked about enough. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with it and lessons that I have learned from overcoming it. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by overcoming it too, by the way. So, for anyone who doesn't know what agoraphobia is, I looked up a little book definition that I can just throw on the screen real quick and read for you guys. Agoraphobia is an anxiety disorder that will affect an estimated 1.3% of Americans at some point in their lives. People with agoraphobia avoid specific public places or situations because they anticipate having an anxiety or panic attack and being unable to escape or get help. In severe cases, these fears cause people to refuse to leave their homes for prolonged periods of time. So let me tell you guys something. You always see me on this page outside my house 7 days a week. I don't like being in the house too much or too long because it makes me anxious. This is a total opposite from if you knew me in 2012 and 2013 when agoraphobia overtook my life. Now I'm out here doing fitness, I'm doing races, I am going on TV sets. I'm traveling, I'm exploring the city, I'm going to different countries and different cities, different states, all that kind of stuff. Now, but there was a time when I wasn't even leaving my room. Not even my house, my room. I would only leave my room if I had to go to the bathroom. Aside from that, I'm in my room, in my bed all day. So I'll break down a little bit of how that happened, how I had that experience. In 2011 and 2012 or so, I was working factory work. I was doing a factory job. I've spoken about this before. I went to school, I graduated, I got my business administration degree, and I thought that I was just going to come out and that business admin degree was going to just push me to the top of the ladder of the job force or whatever. Going to get out and somebody's going to give me a nice high paying job because I worked hard and I earned this degree. That was not so, as is the experience for a lot of people. Like the degree sometimes is a minimal requirement to get you through the door, but it's not something that automatically just places you at the top rung. So I was getting offered a lot of these management trainee positions, management trainee, and they were paying slightly above minimum wage. Management trainee was just fancy terminology, in my opinion, because the jobs that they were offering were basically like busy work that I feel like a high school student on summer break could have done. It was just like run errands, photocopy things, answer phone calls. It was not really anything much to it, and it didn't pay much on top of that. So I remember having like a conflict of interest with my parents here who told me like, you got to build up from somewhere. You got to start somewhere, which is true. But the factory work was offering me almost double in salary what the management training positions were offering. So I chose to do the job that was going to pay me more money. I got into the job. The job was really intense physical labor. And while on the job, I started to experience really terrible panic attacks. And again, if you know what a panic attack is, I don't really have to tell you how terrible it is. But if you don't know what a panic attack is, there's so many symptoms that can be associated with it. For me, I was experiencing chest pains, I was experiencing shortness of breath, lightheaded, um, tingling of the limbs, numbness, brain fog, headaches, migraines, all that kind of stuff. But the worst part of it was before I specifically knew what it was, I thought that I was having a heart attack because I'm like, what is going on here? I feel sharp chest pains and I can't catch my breath. So at first, I thought this might have been an isolated incident, but the panic attacks developed more for me into a general anxiety disorder and a clinical depression by book definition. So I'm like, okay, how do I get rid of this? I tried all kinds of different things. I tried online programs. I tried temporarily going to see a therapist, but I was never really committed to any of that stuff because I didn't really believe that it was a somatic symptom. And that just means a symptom that is caused by thought rather than something physically being wrong with you. What is that you have? Agoraphobia, Patricia? And good afternoon, by the way. Well, it's afternoon for me. So as I was going along, the panic attacks started to get more frequent. And if anyone knows anything about panic attacks, you feel like everybody is watching you when you're having one and that it looks really crazy from the outside. So you become scared to have an anxiety attack in public. So for me, that is how it eventually ended up developing into an agoraphobia because I still wanted to go outside and do things, but I was thinking to myself, what if I go outside and have a panic attack? It's going to be embarrassing. What if somebody has to call 911? So I started going outside less and I started staying home whenever I had this like irrational feeling. When I was like, man, I feel like a lot of anxiety right now. And I think that if I go to the store or if I go to the gym or if I go wherever, I'm going to have a big panic attack. So I'm like, let me just stay home. Giving into that fear fed the fear. So it meant that the next time I would go out, I would automatically, hi, Shelly, how are you? Glad you made it. So I would automatically think that something was going to happen with regards to these panic attacks when I go outside. So I would start to feel heightened anxiety immediately when I go outside. And then what happened with that was it started to decrease my safe space. Now it was like I only feel safe when I go to certain areas. Here, and here where I'm comfortable. But that space started to shrink little by little. So now I only feel good going down the block. Now I only feel good in the park by my house. Now I only feel good right outside my house. Now, even in my house, I'm getting these panic attacks frequently. And now I just want to stay in my room. Oh, yeah, it can definitely be very paralyzing. Yeah, freeways can be a specific phobia too. For some people experience certain phobias where they don't necessarily have anxiety all the time, but they have crippling anxiety in certain situations. I know that's not what you were saying, but that was something I'm adding in here for people who don't really know too much about that. So now, fast forward, I'm in my room and I don't feel comfortable leaving my room at all. I don't like to make these about medications, but I did go to the doctor at that time, and the doctor was just like, oh, no big deal. Everyone experiences this, especially at this age and stage of your life, which was like my early 20s, and he just prescribed me Xanax and was like, "You're good to go." Didn't even tell me to go to therapy. He was just like, "Take this Xanax whenever you feel these symptoms, and you're gonna be okay." So I was willing to do anything at that time. So I took the Xanax, and the Xanax actually did reduce or remove my symptoms temporarily. But then after the 4 hours or whatever it was when they would wear off, the symptoms would just ramp back up to where I would need to take it again. And I got to the point where I was taking it every 4 hours, basically. Every 4 hours that I was awake, and I wouldn't leave my house without the bottle with me. Let's see. I had this really bad back in 2019-20. It was awful. I didn't leave my house much at all for almost a year. I'm doing all right. Just doing more prep work like what I told you about earlier. Yeah, so it got to a point where the Xanax became less and less effective. And it was evident that I needed more than just to take the medication. I needed to figure out the core root of what was going on. So it's a very long story, but I've told this story a few times before. The main thing of this live that I'm doing now is just to get to the lessons learned. So what happened was I ended up going to a therapist and a nurse practitioner at this time. And they both gave me like great tips about overcoming agoraphobia. But I wasn't really prepared to listen to these tips because I was just like, these things that they're telling me seem like things that I shouldn't have to work to achieve. So I remember my therapist telling me about gradual exposure. And gradual exposure, they used to do something back in the day called flooding, which was when you have a big fear of something to just dive right into it and just do that thing. But they realized that that was ineffective because sometimes that made people more fearful and more scared of whatever it was. So they learned something called gradual exposure therapy, which is to expose yourself to that element slowly and then challenge your negative thinking and your beliefs and sit in your symptoms for a little bit so that you can get out of it slowly. So what that looked like for me was, okay, I wasn't going outside. I wasn't leaving my room. This happened for like almost a year for me as well. And the therapist told me, okay, first, go outside and sit on the porch for like 30 seconds if you can tolerate that. And try to do belly breathing in your diaphragm for 30 seconds. And if you can tolerate that, that's your win for the day. Do that for 30 seconds. And then you can go back into your house, into your room, whatever. The next day, try to add on like another 15 seconds. Try to get up to like 5 minutes and then use music. You can use music to kind of distract you while you're doing the belly breathing. You have talked about the work that is needed, and it's in fact very hard to do the work, even if it seems like it should be automatic. It is oftentimes poo-pooed until you reach a tipping point. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was saying a second ago, Van Hoot, is that I didn't want to have to relearn things that I had already done before. So it's like you learn how to run the New York City Marathon. You run the marathon for years, and then somebody's teaching you how to crawl again. They're like, okay, this is how you start to learn the steps to walk. First, you start crawling on the ground. Then you take a couple of wobbly steps, and then you fall and you get back up. And you're like, I have run several marathons. Why am I learning how to walk again? So that resistance to the process often makes people have to wait longer to be able to get their result. So you actually have to accept it and lean into the process. to be able to even start to get better. So I started to lean into the process. You can fast forward to I eventually got to the point where I resolved the agoraphobia. And it's not that I don't feel it anymore. It's just the fact that now I know what it is, and I have so many tools in my toolkit that have helped me in those situations where I start to feel the fear, where I start to feel the anxiety and the panic attacks again. So the lessons that I learned from having that agoraphobia and going through that whole long process: be patient, because it's something that took me a lot of time. The same way how I said I spent almost a year in my house, it probably took me like a good year of doing all these things that I learned in therapy to get myself out of that space where I was and comfortable being outside on a regular basis again. Be resilient, because there are some days it didn't really go like this, where it was just a process that was just going upwards every day. Some days I didn't want to go outside. Like, I would have my game plan. Today I'm going to be outside for a minute. Tomorrow I'm going to be outside for 2. The next day I'm going to be outside for 3. Mind you, this might not sound like anything to you guys, but my agoraphobia was one of the most severe cases. Because just like the quote that I put up earlier, it's only a very small percentage of people with agoraphobia that develop this like really deathly fear of leaving their room like that. And I was one of them. So it took a lot of resiliency and realizing that I was going to have ups and downs and good days and bad days. Leaning into the process, which is something that I said already. Before you can even start to get better and reverse that process, you have to accept it for what it is and realize this is where I am, and it's going to take me a long time to get to where I need to be, but I can get there. Having a positive outlook about it. Challenging your limiting beliefs. That's one of the most important things. Step by step and lots of patience for yourself. Yeah. It sounds like going through this has made you a better mental health professional. Not only did it make me a better mental health professional, it made me a mental health professional, period. Because to me, in my mind, that was never my path. I never wanted to be in the mental health profession. And it's not even that I thought about it and didn't want to do it. It was that I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, business, I'm going to have my own business. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm not thinking about mental health. So going through this kind of immense struggle and then coming out of it, I automatically felt like it's my purpose to talk about this and to help other people in similar positions. The work is hard to get through, but man, is it worth it. I love hearing your stories and how you made it to where you are now. Thank you. So the part that I was at was challenging your limiting beliefs, because one thing is, I consider an anxiety disorder, any anxiety disorder, as an overthinking disorder. So there's a lot of times when you get in your own head and your mind is telling you things that aren't necessarily true. If I step outside, a building is going to fall on me. A plane is going to run into me. I'm going to get hit by a car. I mean, are those things a possibility? Yes. Are those things a probability? No, because those things happen to people like once in a blue moon. Am I going to get struck by lightning? Once in a blue moon. Like, it happens to people, but you can't live your life anticipating those like once in a lifetime events. So when your mind starts telling you those things, you have to start being like, that's unlikely. I've been here, here, and here so many times before, and that has never happened to me before. And I don't think that that's going to happen now. And I'm not going to let you have me crippled in fear. Sometimes leaving a job that causes severe anxiety can also help. Yeah, I can. When I quit my job, it took me almost a year to recover. But before I felt comfortable leaving my house. It was hard work, more to it, but yeah. But now you not only see what others who have gone through, but also to know the steps to better support those who are in need of support. Have you ever talked about support structures for caretakers? I have not talked about support structures for caretakers, but I actually recently learned about caregiver fatigue. Yeah, which I am experiencing now. I'm definitely experiencing caregiver fatigue. And I actually thought that caregiver fatigue could only apply for when you are the caregiver, but I was a caregiver for like 2 years, and now my dad is in the nursing home, so I'm not actively caregiving, but that hasn't changed the fact that I'm still actively in this situation um, of every day waking up, needing to know his status, needing to know what's going on with him, with his eating, and with a whole bunch of different things. And it can be draining. It can be tough. That's what. And one thing is, when I talk about protecting energy, a large part of it is because of that. I can't be involved in everything because the things that are going on in my life off of this camera require so much of my energy and require me to be a positive person, and indulging in certain things, I just wouldn't be able to be that person. Going through the work is hard, but it's paying off so much for me in all aspects of life. Sorry for asking you the long questions. Oh, the questions are appreciated. The questions are appreciated. What are you experiencing now, Trisha? Trisha, I feel like I pronounce your name a different way every time, but I need to know how to pronounce it because that exact spelling can be pronounced 10 different ways. Okay, so where are we at here? All is not lost. That's the next thing I have written down. All is not lost. So when I got my diagnosis of anxiety disorder, clinical depression, agoraphobia, panic disorder, I think that was it. Anxiety disorder, clinical depression, agoraphobia, and panic disorder. Yeah. When I got that diagnosis, I was like, my life is over. Because when I asked what can be done to get rid of them, they were like, nothing. Once you get this diagnosis, the best that you can do is learning how to manage the symptoms. So I was like, man, why do I want to put in a whole bunch of work to manage symptoms? It was just not really phrased to me in the best way, to be honest with you. Okay, so when I said Trisha, I was correct. Okay, good. That's why you never corrected me there. Caregiver fatigue. Yeah, it's a serious thing. Trisha, I have a much easier time consistently connecting with people via my YouTube page than I do in my real life. And it's because, believe it or not, for me, connecting on here requires me less than connecting in real life. And that's not to say that my connections here are not real, but I'm the type of person who, if I'm truly connected with a person, I care about every facet of their life. I care about what's going on in their personal life, with their family. I care about their ups and downs. It's a huge investment for me to be involved with even just one person. And that's just the type of person I am. And I'm an empath. So I feel what everybody is feeling. So during this time, I've had a much harder time with consistently being there for other people. Talking and giving generic messages, I know this helps a lot of people out there, but I'm also not like out there in the trenches with all of you, standing there and helping with each and every situation you have going on. Because I know just like I'm experiencing so many things in my life, I know that out of 1,850 people who are following me, several of you have your own situations going on. Some of them probably even more difficult than mine and harder than mine. And if I was involved in that kind of way with each and every one of you, I also wouldn't be able to do that here either. But I like having this platform. to be able to express myself, to have such a supportive community, and that we can go back and forth and relate to each other in sometimes ways that not everybody is able to do. Where are we here? The hardest part of having agoraphobia for me was making appointments. Oh, goodness. Good one, Rich. That's a good one, Rich, because I notoriously canceled appointments. I would schedule these appointments, and then the night before, I would have some kind of dread. And then the morning of, I would be like, I think I'm just going to take this off my schedule. And this was happening frequently and consistently. So I can relate to you there. I can definitely relate to you there. By the way, this post that I'm making, or this video that I'm making, is from your comments, Rich, by the way, just to let you know. I was thinking of something that I could talk about when you were talking about things that I've learned, obstacles that I've overcome, etc. So this is what I came up with. After the part where I have all is not lost. Wow, I can't read my own writing. Rebuilding my life. So this put me in a space where I had to rebuild my whole life. My life was a certain way before the agoraphobia took over, and I had to recourse my whole life and figure out a whole new life. And that was because the agoraphobia meant that I wasn't talking to anybody, I wasn't working, I wasn't seeing anybody aside from my immediate family that lived with me. So as I was starting to come out of that, and as I was starting to heal, and as I was starting to leave my house, I was like, I have to pick up new friends. I have to find new things to do with my time. And I have to arm myself with these new tools that I have learned from overcoming the agoraphobia so that I don't let it overtake me again. And it hasn't now for a period of about 10 years. So I'm really happy about that. But what that looked like was I had to put in all of my coping mechanisms and coping tools as a part of my day-to-day. I had to start doing some journaling. I had to start doing some breathing exercises. And I get off track with these things sometimes, but generally, when things are operating well for me, I had to start consistently implementing exercise. I had to start consistently doing my music because that's something that helps me calm down. I had to pick out my friends, and I had to choose who I'm going to really engage with. Because it's not everybody that I could engage with, because some people are triggering. It is what it is. I had to find people who could understand me, because one thing is, not everybody can accept that your life looks slightly different because of having this anxiety disorder, because that's what agoraphobia is. It's a derivative of an anxiety disorder, and sometimes it requires you to do things a little bit differently in your life. And it requires people around you that are in your life to understand it a little bit, at least, and to understand you and what makes you tick. Thinking of all the positives, because I used to be like, why me? Why did this happen to me? It's not fair. And that's one of the worst mental spaces that you can be in your life. And I used to be asking myself this every day, even during the recovery process, until I got to the point where I became a peer counselor and started talking to other people about this for a living, and having people be like, I'm so glad that I met you, Mark, because I've never really heard somebody talk about how they've been there and talk about the different steps that they went through to overcome it, and now have like a positive outlook like the one that you have in life. So I'm like, the version of me that you guys are talking to right now would not have existed without going through that kind of trial and trouble. and I wouldn't be connecting with people on the levels that I connect with them. I wouldn't have this page where I'm talking about these types of things in this kind of depth. So I'm grateful for the struggle because it helped me find my strength and it helped me find my purpose. Man, so true. That's why it's hard to come out of sometimes. Yeah. And the last thing that I have here is do not look back, because you're not going that way. Don't look back. We have a rear view mirror and side mirrors in a car. Now, if you're driving and you spend all your time looking in those mirrors, you're going to crash the car, because ultimately there's things happening in front of you that you need to be looking at in order to get to your destination safely, right? So you look, there's purposes to look back sometimes. When you're turning, when you're reversing the car to try to get out of the driveway, like those mirrors do serve a purpose. But you're not supposed to spend that much time looking in those mirrors because you're moving forward. Don't think about the why or the how too much. How did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? That serves its purpose too. Like when you go to a therapist, they will backtrack. And a lot of times you'll talk about your childhood traumas, or different PTSD, things that have happened to you that caused you to be in this position now. And that serves a purpose because you need to have that background information sometimes. But once you've gotten through that portion of it, now you have to be like, I'm here. It doesn't really matter how I got here. It just matters that I'm here now. And there are places that I want to go. And getting to those places requires me to let go of that feeling of why me and how did I get here. And that can be one of the hardest parts of the process. Not feeling sorry for yourself, not having pity parties, just saying, this is where I am, and I want to get past this and get through this. I want to take back my life. I want to regain my life, and I want to gain an even better life than what I had before I knew that I had this problem. And once you get to that point, now you can start moving forward. It's a process of getting out of your own way and getting out of your own head. So true. The Mark I knew 15 plus years ago is quite different than the Mark I knew today. This death made you who you are. Same for all of us. Appreciate that. So that's all that I have for this. And I really appreciate everybody for jumping on the live. I love having these topics. There was a point in time when I said to myself, I don't want to be the face of having a mental illness. I don't consider myself a face of having a mental illness. I was talking to Van Hoot about this yesterday, I believe. And I was telling him, he was telling me that he likes the fact that I do all these other things with my life. And then this is kind of an afterthought. And I was like, I'm so glad that that's what you get from my page, because that's exactly what my overarching goal has always been from the start. I want to show you guys the things that I can do. I want to show you guys my talents. I want to show you guys the way how I have fun, the way how I engage with different people, the way how I've met these celebrities, the ways how I have done these really intense fitness competitions, traveled. I've done a lot of I've done photography. I do music. I do all these different things. But on the bottom rung, I still deal with anxiety issues and I still deal with depression. And the point is, you don't have to manage your symptoms. That was the old school way of telling you therapy, of doing therapy for you, managing symptoms. You don't just have to manage your symptoms. You can live, you can be happy, you can have goals, you can do things with business, you can have really great hobbies, you can travel the world, you can do things that you love and enjoy, even with carrying this anxiety and depression with you. And that's what I want people to get out of the things that I'm saying and the things that I'm doing. I had to change my face when I started getting back in the world. Life had put a scowl on my face. I understand. I literally had to relax my eyes and summon my kind eyes. You know what, Rich? That's an interesting thing to say, because one thing that I remember people telling me all the time when I started reintegrating myself into society was, why don't you smile, Mark? Why do you always look so tense? Why do you always look so upset? Why do you always look so sad? And it wasn't intentional. It was not intentional. But yes, my face was just like that because I always felt like I was on defense mode. I always felt like something bad was just around the corner. I kind of intentionally tell myself, relax, several times a day. I'm like, Mark, relax. It's not that serious. Smile a little more. Now people don't see me as that person, but there was a time, a good time period where they did. Yes, appreciate you saying that. For those who have not, please give the stream a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. You're welcome for sharing, Gina. Thanks for being here. Hey, Chocolate. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you on one of my lives. I still see you in the comments, though. So cool. Someone else has experienced that, too. Yeah, absolutely. Same here, but not defense mode, but concentration. If you guys have ever watched any of my fitness videos, though, that's the face that I have the entire time that I'm doing something relating to fitness, because I feel like when I'm doing fitness, that expressing an emotion takes some of my energy. I'm like, if I'm smiling or if I'm laughing or something, it's taking away some of the energy that I need to finish the task. So I can understand what you're saying in terms of the concentration part, Chocolate. Sometimes it's needed. But in general, when I'm just out in the world, I tell myself, relax, smile a little bit more. There's always going to be serious things in my life that require me to be serious. But that's the reason why when I'm not in one of those types of situations, I'm like, I better enjoy all of this. I have to be happy during these times, because if there's not that balance and I'm just like that all the time, it's going to cause me to be more stressed. You're welcome, Patricia. And thank you guys for your comments and your commentary, because really, I guess a secret is that sometimes when I come on these lives, I mean, I always have something, but this is like a 6 or 7 or 8 point list. And I come on here and I'm like, I don't really know the direction that this is going to go, but we'll see based on the comments. When I would go to the club back then, guys always ask what's wrong with me or I need to smile. I feel like that was probably a pickup line, though, Chocolate. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so when I was like, another little thing is that when I used to do my groups, I'm not at that job anymore. I actually loved that first job that I did in the mental health field. There were reasons why I left unrelated to the job, unrelated to the tasks of the job. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But one thing is, I used to come into the job and have like a printout of an article. And I would read the article and everyone was kind of falling asleep. And I was like, man, I suck at this. Like, I suck at leading groups. I'm really bad with this. And then one day, I remember I had the article and somebody raised their hand and said, hey, Mark, I have this thing that has happened in my life. Do you mind if I talk about that? And I was like, why not? Kind of threw the paper to the side. They started talking about their life issue. And I was able to just create on the spot a whole seminar based on the thing that they just randomly threw in there. So if my talks on here seem kind of random sometimes, that's why. I realize that's actually a skill set of mine, because not everybody can pivot from their original plan of topic based on what the comments are saying. Lost you and found you again. What do you mean it cut off? I'm just joking with you, Chocolate. I mean, I'm somewhat joking with you, but they were probably like, she's not smiling. So let me use this as an icebreaker. When I don't feel like dealing with people, I put on my don't talk to me face, but I try to be the person who smiles and says hello to people. I wanted to say one more thing. I was going to make a separate video about this, but I'm just going to put it here. So shout out to AT2. AT2 is another page. He covers a bunch of different things. He was on my live the other day. He had me on his live, I think a month or two ago at this point. And I was listening to a live that he had done yesterday, I believe. And something that he said in his live was about his YouTube persona and his real life person that he is. He's like, you have to kind of put on a face on YouTube or on social media in general. And then when you turn off the cameras, you're your regular person that is different from who you are online. I'm not going to say that I am the exact same person on this computer that I am off of the computer. Nobody is. Yes, there are some elements of being a little bit different, but I can say that there's not a major difference between the person you see me here and the person that you see me off of here. And that's the reason why when certain situations have arose on my page, I deal with them the same way that I would deal with my real life issues. I deal with everything the exact same way. So I'm like, I'm never going to compromise myself to a point where I feel like I have to be something different and do something different. And the reason why I appreciate this page so much is because when I started it, I thought that I wasn't enough. I'm like, I don't do anything wild and crazy. You know, there's nothing that's like super out there or super exciting about me that people are going to gravitate to my page for. Maybe I have to switch it up. But enough of you were on here telling me, just be you. I like you how you are. Just do you. I like the things that you put up, and I like the things that you're about. So I said to myself, let me just lean into that. Continue doing that. See where that gets me. And my page got monetized 2 months after I started 2 months after the show of Big Brother ended. As I was just talking about these types of topics and having these kind of talks and just posting the things that I do every day. Fitness, music, mental health. That's it. It's quite simple. I talk about those things every single day, and y'all come and watch me talk about those things every single day. And that's why I'm here. So that was just like a little sidetrack, because I know that there was a time in my life, forget about the YouTube. There was a time in my life when I felt like I had to be two different people. I had to be a person who was always fun, happy, and make people think that there was never any struggle in my life. And I played that role well, to where when I was out, I was the fun guy. I was the person that people always wanted to be around. I was the one that people would call up. Oh, let's go out and do something. Let's go here. Let's do that. I was that person. But then privately, I was sad and I was down and I was stressed all the time. And my life, and I was just like, my life is just always in shambles and I'm not happy, yada, yada. I wasn't telling people this. It was just my personal experience after the fun ended and the lights turned off. Then I got to a point when I said, I am a whole person. And being a whole person means that sometimes I'm fun, sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I make people laugh, sometimes people make me laugh. Sometimes I have days when I don't want to talk to anybody. Sometimes I have days when I'm in a bad mood. Sometimes I have days when I'm sad, stressed, depressed. And I want to show people all of that because that's just me being me. So I don't feel like I have to be somebody different. I don't feel like I have to put on a persona. The persona is just Mark. This is me and this is my life. And it has helped me both with this page and in my real life because I kind of take those lessons that I've learned from here and apply those to situations that happen outside of the computer. That was just a sidetrack. But anyways, I really appreciate all of you once again. If you have not yet, first of all, shout out to the replay crew whenever you see this. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I hope everyone has a great day. I have a couple more topics. I might be back later. We'll see. But I will be back soon, definitely. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.